Dr Christina Zdenek. Now, I've met her a number of times, only in recent years, and she is amazing. I've got to say, I'm gushing a little bit here, but wonderful speaker. It's not only an achievement to have the qualifications and the theory and the practical, but it's also being able to communicate, and that's what Christina does so well. So her vision is to use science and communication to improve the relationship between humans and wildlife. Now, she's delivered so many different conservation projects, I can't even go through all of them, but I've known her with so many different hats just in the last few years that I've got to know Christina. So, of course, tonight is all about cockatoos and parrots, obviously, but the Palm Cockatoo project is something very dear to her heart. 6 papers published. Now, from cockatoos to death adders, she's done the Death Adder project. Sound Garden project, which is how snakes respond to airborne sounds. Amazing. With more than 18 years in field-based experience. So this is everything from palm cockatoos in their natural habitat, death adders. You know, I've bumped into her in the bush when she's been like getting leaf down to study the quality of eucalypt sequoias, sea snakes, macaws, sea lions and little penguins. Also, not just the field-based experience, but the 8 years in the lab-based roles. She's also devoted 18 years to working with Indigenous mobs on Cape York Peninsula to better understand and manage and conserve Australia's only tool-using parrot, the Palm Cockatoo. So I'm not going to go on because there is just a lot to this next speaker that we won't even get to the tip of the iceberg tonight. But to get a little insight into what Dr. Christina has been doing, please welcome, give her a big, warm, cockatoo welcome to Dr. Christina Zdenek, everyone.
Thank you. You're so sweet. Do I use that mic?
Yeah. That one there.
Oh, that one. There is not one though.
Up on that thing?
Oh, pull it out.
Yeah.
Oh, hey. I like to feel like I'm a rock star, so I want to move around, and also at the end so I can mic drop. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction, Ranger Stacey, and thank you to the Parrot Society for the invitation tonight, and for all of you for coming. And I hope you enjoy learning a little bit more about palm cockatoos than maybe what you've known before. I'm definitely the one to tell you about them. If I must say myself, I've spent 18 years working with wild palm cockatoos. So what you'll hear tonight will be admittedly a little bit of a subset of that. So we can't really hear the vocalizations very well. Can we? I've got a range of vocalizations and I was hoping that you'd be able to hear them. Here, you want to put that there? Yeah, do that. That's better. Nice. No, keep going. Too loud. Sorry.
You got to remember the median age of the room.
Oh, yeah.
We're not all 12-year-old boys.
I think that's it. Oh, it's still going. They're still, like, it just goes to show the wide variety of vocalizations that palm cockatoos give. Was anyone there surprised by that? Were you expecting raucous, rah, rah, like a sulfur-crested cockatoo? Well, that's one of the reasons that makes this magnificent bird, the palm cockatoo, so special. And I really do hope that you enjoyed that language bank of calls that I played, because admittedly it did take me 2.5 years to acquire these birds. They're difficult to study. Has anyone heard of the Difficult Bird Research Group by Professor Rob Heintzen, perhaps? Well, he admits that of the difficult birds, Palm Cockatooes is the most difficult. And so they've tested me over the years. But you may have also noticed a stick. Yeah? Who knows about Palm Cockatooes and drumming? Of course, I'm preaching to the choir here. That's fabulous. Look, they are the only non-human animal in the world to drum with a drumstick that they've created. It's absolutely fascinating, and I thought you might like to see some footage. How does that sound? Yeah? And so that I know my audience, as you do as a speaker, you need to know your audience. Can I just get a raise of hands? Who is from overseas? So non-Australian. Okay, and presumably the rest would be Australian. Okay, all right, that's good background for me. So you may or may not have seen Palm Cockatooes drumming. There's some vocalizations here. Let's get that in there too.
What we can do, this is long enough to take up there.
Oh, do that. Watch the HDMI. Okay, so what we've got is a couple different combinations. So they don't just drum with a stick that they make. That first one was a Grevillea glauca seed pod, and it is very hard. And so it makes this really loud sounding noise that you can hear for hundreds of meters away. Now this one here, this male, he's just quietly going, didn't make a single vocalization in 22 minutes. And notice he was turning his head sideways, presumably to have a listen, perhaps assessing the quality of the hollow, or perhaps, oh, now you've ruined it. It's too much twist on here. Yeah, try that. Oh, there we go, we're back on. Okay, so here, this male, he's got a dead stick that he's made from a dead branch, and he's banging it on a dead branch. And that's what makes the loudest sound. And that's typically in territorial defense. So I get so many questions from the media. Why do birds drum? It must be to attract the female and to attract a mate. Well, as you know, parrots mate for life. So would it be to attract a mate that he's been with for decades? No? Why do you think that they do it? You've seen a couple clips? Territorial defense? Yeah, nice. Yep, to fend off predators. It's intruder pairs, actually, who might want to usurp their super valuable resource that is their really old growth nesting hollows, which I'll go into in a little bit. So there's one more clip. This one's a little bit more higher resolution in 4K for you. Now this one doesn't make vocalizations, nor does it make much sound because it's a living stick here. And in fact, I've got some helpers in the room. Now is your cue. Thank you so much. Yeah, so we've got some 5-star, it doesn't get higher than that, drumsticks that are going around the room now. And then you could have, after this, you can say that you've touched a fair income Aussie Palm Cockatoo drumstick because I've watched the birds drum using those sticks. There's 2 going around, and I will count that there will be 2 going home with me. I know everyone wants one. So it took me 4 years to actually acquire footage of 72 drumming events. That was some hard work. On average, every 100 hours it would take. So these are rare birds up on far north Queensland, up Cape York, and in fact, here's where they live. So we're like not even on the map, and right up the tip, it's called Cape York Peninsula, right? So the range extends into New Guinea and parts of Indonesia and the Aru Islands as well. But there's worry that they're being unsustainably harvested in New Guinea for food consumption, but also illegal pet trade. So where I've focused my work, because I live in Australia, is on Cape York. And here's a clip. This is from 2014. And just getting the Indigenous folks up in the area, Kukuyawu country around Lockhart, to come out and protect those trees with me. I'll go into that a little bit later. But it all started in 2008, actually. And since then, I've spent almost 40 months full-time living and working with these birds and trekking through grass about yay tall the whole time. So you start to have really big steps and you get some good exercise, I can tell you. And this is where I was living for 11 months across 2 years. We call it the Humpy, which in the local name there is a shelter shed. And of course the bats and the butterflies and the snakes would just see that as their own territory. It was an extension of the bush, really. There's 2 walls, right? And of course the rain would come in too. So I'm just trying to set a scene for you so you can feel a little bit more ensconced into researching palm cockatoos and what it's been like. Of course, you got to make your own toilet sometimes, and that's just how it went. If you ever have to, I'd recommend a bit of ash. It helps reduce the stench. And now it's been really important for me to work alongside with not just Indigenous rangers, but of course the Indigenous peoples up in those areas. So I started out working with a group called Kukuyau, hope to work with Oompala into the future, but also have worked in the northern areas and the western areas and also a little bit further south. And so a range of different mobs, Gudeng, Yerenkanu, Atampaya, and Angamuthi, and Wutati. So these are the people who live there. This is their country. And so two-way science is me coming from Western science, understanding the birds and looking at it from a scientific perspective, doing the statistics, collecting the data, getting the sample size, but then also getting information too from elders who've seen the bird eat this or eat that, and oh, they're in that area. But they're the ones who are going to continue that cultural knowledge in that area. I can't do that. It's their cultural stories and their storylines that will continue the information that I can help provide for them. And so that's what this two-way science really is about. It's a two-way street. And so I've got a range of help, and I include them in any sort of project that I've got up there, including filming for ABC, NHK, EBS, and the BBC most recently. And every year I do like to talk to the school kids because, as we all know, they're the future, aren't they? And so I'll always give a talk at the Lockhart River School. So I was actually just there last week. I've come just in time for this tonight. Unfortunately, they were on school holidays, so I missed this year. But I always like to, oh, there's a live bird over there. Yeah, cool. Get out with elders who have that just intense, deep knowledge of the area. I'm incredibly privileged, really, to be able to work with these people and work alongside them. All right, so back to palm cockatoo biology here. They only have one egg when it does come to breeding, and it's invariably one egg. That's Steve Murphy's work from 2003. And that egg, though, has a low chance of hatching and then a high chance of predation. And so it works out to be a low chance of actually fledging and leaving the nest. So they've got the lowest breeding success rate of any parrot in the world. It's at 23%. But because it's every other year, not every year, that's why they're worse than the eclectus at 21. Now, that equates to one successful fledgling on average, 1 every 10 years per breeding pair. So you can imagine any intense stochastic events or perturbations from human impacts, such as mining or hot, intense fires. They really cannot sustain that. They're a long-lived species, right? Slow life history. And the way that they make up for this low breeding success rate is to be able to live that long. But really what you could have is a persistent but aging population that proverbially goes off of the cliff if we're not careful, right? Because you could have just old birds that you don't know the age of, we don't know the demographics, we don't know if they're continually breeding if we're not watching, and they could just die off, right? And we already know they're an endangered species. We've got few of them. Have a look. This is looking down into the hollow. That's a nest platform that they've made. Now the nest platform, this is immaculate, right? This takes hundreds of hours for them to create. So it's not just a rare resource to have these very big old growth tree hollows that are just in the right orientation and have the right landing pad for them because they're this massive bird, 65 centimeters in length. But also, they needed to invest in bringing stick after stick after stick. And now this nest platform, how deep do you reckon it can go? A few? 1 meter. Who said 4 meters? Have you been reading my works? Well done you. Up to 4 meters. And that's some help from Selena Cacho and the ecologists over in the western side, working with the mines over there. It can be very deep, and so it's an exceptional resource in that landscape. And now there's layers to that nest as well, because if you just chuck sticks down, that's no good. Your egg will just fall right through, and it's not nice to sit on for hours and days on end, right? So they then need to splinter all these sticks. So anyway, huge investment. I think you get the point. Who's seen a baby palmy before? Now you have. I hope that's clear enough for you, but they have that ivory tip to the bill. And after all that investment, all those displays, drumming, territorial defense, timing it with the female, right? Then if they're lucky, you get this final moment, right? And this chick might be on the edge of the hollow for 1, 2, 3 days, right? And as you can see, this tree, right, that's been snapped in half. These birds are so big, it's not a limb drop that they need in order to nest in. It's the entire trunk, right? They're so big, they need the entire tree, right? So over 20 centimeters in diameter is the bare minimum. Now, John Winarski in Westaway, 2008, they showed that these particular trees in tropical savanna, right, Eucalyptus tetradonta, that's a Darwin stringy bark, they are at least, if they're 20 centimeters diameter in that inner hollow diameter, at least 220 years old. They are centuries, up to 500 years old. Very huge hollows, old trees, and you can imagine how many fires that they've had to endure over those centuries, and how useless they would be at trying to revegetate them. We must protect those ones in place that we know are important to palm cockatoos. They've chosen, and these are the chosen trees. Beautiful single egg there again. We knew that they had a chick, not so sure if it fledged. It's very difficult with this bird because they don't have seasonality in terms of when they breed. I can't go there like in WA and know that all the cockatoos there in February will have their chicks. Boom, you beauty, only climb it then. Each pair, it could be 6 months apart when they'll lay their egg. It's, to me, I think when they have enough fat stores in their body, so that the right hormones are flowing, and then that's why that communication between the pairs is so pivotal in order to time that breeding. And so when it does that drumming, it's not just actually territorial defense, it's also pair bonding. They can time the breeding. He's got the hollow, it's his, this is marking his territory, but also what's the reaction of the female? Is she primed and ready to go? Is she positively responding with her behaviors, fluffing out her feathers, exposing her cheek, erecting that crest and doing those correct vocalizations? They're a very complex bird. And as we know with parrots, they've got that frontal that front part of the brain, the cortex, the frontal cortex. So they are individuals, right? They have their own personalities, and we saw that with the drumming sticks. They will make unique drumming sticks, and more different, well, yeah, to different individuals, and they're closer, the dimensions and the way that they make sticks is consistent, and the way that they drum, they do it with an individualistic drum beat. They are individuals, which is wild to think about. And now I've witnessed over the nearly 2 decades of working with them, unfortunately, a great deal, a high percentage of the numbers of nests actually burning down. And that is truly sad when I've seen how important these hollows are and how they will almost fight to the death, just colliding and nearly falling. Well, I've seen them actually fall to the ground to fight for these nests with other palm cockatoos. And then to see them go up in flames like this. So this is a long exposure one of a palmy hollow that I witnessed burn down. And so this is what it looks like in the day. Very intense fires entering the base. And you can see it's not like a fire's come through afterwards. It's actually the base. It's taken that tree down. And we know with climate change, there's going to be more intense fires. There's going to be hotter climates. And there's going to be more cyclones as well, right? And so if you have a weaker base and that wind comes, more likely that's going to fall over. It does get more positive, sorry. We're just going to dip here a little bit, but I'll take you back up. Stick with me, okay? So, but what about the creation rates, right? So there's destruction, but there's also creation when there's cyclones, right? Well, we looked into this. Now, I'm supervising Andrew O'Neill at the Australian National University alongside with Professor Rob Heinsohn. And now what he did, he followed up on a massive survey that I did over at Rio Tinto on the west. And there was 137 trees over a huge area in the west that I deemed suitable for palm cockatoos by looking, right, just with binoculars. Now he went back to these trees 3.5 years later and looked how many had survived, destroyed, or were usable. And 58 had survived, but 29% were destroyed and 13% were unusable. So a big proportion. And now looking at that same area, he looked at the rate of cyclones that would go through. And so this is from 1970s, all the cyclones that have passed through. And then he projected that into the future. And we have a rate of creation of hollows, and then a few other factors that go into the model. It's a mathematical model if you want to predict what the future will look like in terms of how many hollows will be available for palm cockatoos. And now with this information, and this paper is in review with biological conservation right now. So we probably can't publish this if anyone's videoing until it's accepted. Sometimes they get a bit funny about that. They need to be the first ones. But I want to draw your attention to this figure over here. You can see this is our hollows in the landscape. Massive, rapid decline, almost exponential decline is what we're observing, right? That's the current rate of hollow loss that we're observing. If you project it into the future and nothing's done, and what this blue line here, we estimate that palm cockatoos need at least 4 hollows per square kilometre, but up to 7, which is this one here, 4 and 7. And so what happens is within 10 to 20 years, we have crossed that threshold. We are approaching the bare minimum limit of what palm cockatoos will need in order to breed and maintain their current populations. So it's pretty dire straits at the moment, and it might cross even that lower level too. But if we were to reduce the hollow loss rate by 75%, we have some other models in between that I've skipped for you just to make it quicker. But if we get, that's what we need to do, is get to that 75% reduction. So we need to get back 3/4 of what we're losing, right, in order to sustain their nesting habitat, right? So that's where we're at, and we're doing something about it. In fact, spoiler alert, I've been doing it for like 12 years now because I saw this happening and couldn't bear it, and I just needed to do something. So what we do is we use simple rake hose. That's a rake hoe there. And you can see all the vegetation is completely removed. This is last week. And I work with the rangers, national parks, but also Kukuyao as well. And depending on where I am in the Cape, different mobs. And we are saving what trees are left. Now, of all the palm cockatoo hollows that I've seen palmies sit on, we've only been able to confirm that they're nesting in 6% of those. It's a lot of work to confirm. It doesn't mean that they're only nesting in 6%, probably a little bit more, but maybe not heaps more. But it goes to show that it's actually reasonable, it's doable in terms of making these protective fire breaks. It's not like I'm saying to do that on every single tree up there, right? So it works really well. So here's before and after. You can see all the vegetation, and I've seen the char height on these trees, and you're talking 5 to 7 meter high flames. So even if you're not there to watch the fire, because that would be extremely dangerous, you can tell how hot they've been by the height of the char on the tree. And so this is one, you can see that, well, you can't quite see the palmy hollow. They face zenith oftentimes to the sky, but there is indeed an awesome palmy nest there. And so this is what we're trying to prevent, and I'm going to play a little bit of a short clip for you. This is just from last week of what we're doing to turn back the tide on these hot fires, destroying palm cockatoo nests.
These protective fire breaks are hard work, but palm cockatoos are so worth it, right?
That hollow has a massive hole at the base, and it is so close. One more fire, it is absolutely gone. And they adore that hollow. And you can understand the passion that I have to go back there each year to save what's left. So this is what it looks like when fire goes past. So we've made a protective fire break on this palmy hollow. You see that golden ring right here? Right? Fire didn't touch it. Proof in the pudding, it absolutely works. It's so brilliant and so simple. That's what we need, are these simple solutions that absolutely work and proven for conservation. I'm very proud to tell you that we have saved 90 palm cockatoo trees from at least one fire season and 26 across the landscape from 4 fire seasons, going back each year. Sometimes every other year if we don't have the funding to go back up. So this is what that looks like, and it is very positive. Now, I'm a scientist, right? Academic training. Been in academia for 15 years. Recently got out and now work for BirdLife Australia. But as a scientist, I of course do experiments on the things that I'm working with. And so I needed to know, is this working compared to if we weren't doing it? So what we did is, under the guidance of Bill Venables and in conjunction with People for Wildlife, as well as Andrew O'Neill, is we've got a number of trees, and these are our palmy ones that we've made the fire breaks, but as close as we could nearby, we've done a control where we didn't do the fire break, but we still kept an eye on the tree, made lots of measurements. And so we would like pair them. So the treatment is paired with the control, and we've got 74 of these trees. And you ready to be the first people in the world to know the results of this research? Yes. Yeah? All right, well, here it goes. 7 times safer are the fire break trees, our palmy hollows. You are 7 times more likely to lose the tree if you didn't do the fire break. We will publish this by the end of the year. We're working on the models now. So hugely successful, and hopefully other groups will also continue to protect these old growth trees in this way. But the thing is, we love palm cockatoos, and that's wonderful. But I'll tell you what, These old growth trees, they are keystone ecological structures in the landscape, irreplaceable. And how many species across Australia? 300 to 400 species need these old growth tree hollows in order to survive. And in fact, you've got 6 out of the 9 endangered mammals in the northern half of Australia requiring hollows. So it's likely a huge cause of their decline as well. So you've got snakes, gliders, frogs, owls, and yet the palm cockatoos are the umbrella species for all these other ones that maybe don't get the attention. They're not as charismatic or sexy, but they still matter just as much. They're still the cogs and the bolts that keep nature and the whole ecosystem functioning and all those nutrients cycling through to have a healthy, robust, and resilient ecosystem. Endangered bats. Sacalamus bats use the same hollows that palmies do. That was Steve Murphy's work, right? So their survival requires the same hollows that we're saving. So that's preventing the destruction. But how about, can we make up for what's been lost? We've observed this massive decline, but we don't want to accept a small population that one cyclone could take them out, or one disease that gets released, beak and feather, who knows, right? So how can we get that population higher? Well, we actually have made palm cockatoo hollows. There's been several attempts prior to ours that has failed. I wasn't part of those projects, but this one I was, and we are very proud to say that it works, and we do it in several ways. This one's called an enhanced hollow, and as you can see on this side, it's got a V shape. The bird cannot land, and they actually go head first down into the hollow. Did you know that about palmies? Their bum goes right up into the air and then they crawl downwards. So they need this really big landing platform, and they can't really do it if it's got that V shape, and they often do because of how it's formed. So I guide an arborist from down below, and the arborist is up the top, and he's made this simple cut. This one was Alex from Heartwood Habitat. And within a half hour, there was a palm cockatoo that came over and landed in a tree, which was fascinating. And they don't do that just to look at us. They stay away. So they take notice straight away. Inside, we save them loads of time and we make them a nest. You're welcome. We layer it too, you know. If you want to save the palmy, you must be the palmy. So we enjoyed making sticks. And Raymond Mai and Elva from Apudama country was very good at making these for us. Again, before, after. That one's, you know, it's maybe 20 years off from being possibly a suitable hollow, but they can't land on it. It's really spindly and it feels very weak to them, so we just cut that off. So sometimes they're simple to make, these enhanced hollows. But we also make palm cockatubes, right? And this is off of a donor tree that's fallen down, and we give it that vertical life back again so that it could still provide that ecological service for these birds and all the other species. And so we got Waza and Santino and Ben, right? We did a lot of work and we put up 14 of these. So we just capped the bottom, as you can see here, and it's open to the top. And they need to be able to chew that wood, right? And they need to feel like it's very sturdy. We got a chain and everything, and a protective bit around that chain so it doesn't hurt the tree that it's on. And we sometimes use a winch of a car. Other times we use a three-way pulley or five-way pulley system with 3 pulleys. So we've also got Rob Strauss here. And this is just some more photos of how it is that we managed to, out in the middle of the bush, lift a 220 kilogram nest box. Right, so it's pretty intense, but we could do it. And indeed, we have succeeded. Look at that. You know, that is a baby palm cockatoo. So I chose to have no human children, but I've got a baby palmy child. I choose them instead. Thank you. Hearts in conservation, can't help it. So as you can see, they're absolutely using this one, and I can tell you, and this is in conjunction with People for Wildlife, excellent small but mighty non-profit working up in Apudama country in the Northern Peninsula area with Indigenous mobs up there. Now, Ben Muller took these photos, and within 1 month of us erecting this palm cockatube, they laid the egg. Is that nuts? So either they're really desperate for these hollows, or we're just that good. So I guess the nest was perfect, right? It was layered. It's what they needed. Maybe they added a few sticks, but they were ready to go. And I would just cried when I saw that. I could not believe the news. Now, we haven't had it in every single hollow. It depends on where you put him, cockatoo, I should say. But we think over time when the birds find them, and maybe when their hollow falls down or is unsuitable, these will become even more important into the future. And I should say this work did win Australian Geographic's Award for Nature. So it's really nice to be recognised for all that work. Thank you so much. Yeah. Of course, it wouldn't be possible without a lot of contributors, which I have the acknowledgement slide at the end. But here we've got Dr Daniel Natouche and Sophie from People for Wildlife. So they've been a really great help for my project, because as an individual, you cannot take donations, but nonprofits can. And I couldn't bear the paperwork to start one myself. Yeah, so it's been really helpful. Now you might think, especially the internationals here, you might think, wow, I mean, the best bird, all this ecotourism potential, the Indigenous connections, right? And such a remarkable bird. Of course it would be funded. How could we not fund this? Despite all the success, but I'll tell you, that is exactly what is happening. Australian government is very limited in their funding for nature, to put it nicely. So they spend 0.06% on nature, and all the experts agree, from Biodiversity Council, that we need 1%. There's a 17 times difference there for all of you who mightn't be great at math. So we are falling far short in Australia. And it's no wonder why we're losing species. I mean, we have the unenviable record of the most extinctions of any country in the world. We're over 100 now. And we are close to many more. Just in Queensland alone, we've got over 1,000 species threatened with extinction. In Australia, we're over 2,000. I think it's hard to keep up. We keep adding them, actually. It's 2,200 we're threatened with extinction. And this is a huge part of our Australian culture, right? What brings people here? They think it's a wild place. Look at all these crazy species, right? We've been isolated for 45 million years, and so we have all these unique species. And it is our duty and responsibility to look after them, ensure them for future generations. But unfortunately, the governments are largely failing us. It took me 2 years to win a meagre $67,000 from the Queensland government. And yes, I was grateful for that money, but that barely scratched the surface of what's required and what these birds really do deserve, right? And the amount of admin that comes along with that. I don't even want to think about it. It makes me cringe. It's terrible. And there's also, at the same time of not giving enough for funding for wildlife, the Australian government spends 25 times more on subsidies or direct payments that harm nature than money to help repair and protect nature. So it's no wonder that we're going down the gurgler when it comes to protecting our species. We need to make big changes in Australia, and the public need to push for those changes, including international pressure. Now, with the lack of government funding, I wanted to put up some figures of exactly what it would cost for each of these trees to be protected. I've done the calculations. $120, and you can save a palmy nest that year. One enhanced hollow, $350. It's a bit expensive to get the arborist, of course. And then a palm cockatoo, We need to spend time looking for it, building them, and then erecting them. So they're a little bit more expensive, but you get pretty good bang for buck, I'd say. So if anybody is interested, we would greatly appreciate your support so that we can continue the work into the future, because without it, we won't be able to, truth be known. Now, I do have a nice positive note to end with, and I want to show you a very nice documentary. How much time have we got, Ben?
You got 9 minutes.
9 minutes. Oh, perfect. This one's 8. How's that for timing? I think you guys will like this. So we can't have any filming. Oh, mate. Thank you. I see you there. Sorry about that. Here we go. Just enjoy and relax. These are all species that live alongside palm cockatoos in the remarkable area. hope you enjoyed that. Thank you. And a special thank you to Daniel Meyer for editing that together, combination of our footage, and that was funded by the BBC. Thank you very much for your time and attention. I hope you love Palm Cockatoos at least 5% as much as what I do now. All right, have a good evening, everyone.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was just mesmerising. Such beautiful, what a way to end your presentation.